Welcome, my friends. Welcome to my world. I'm your host, Kevin Rutherford. It is Thursday, April 13th. We are here live. It is a free-for-all today. Anything goes. We're going to open the phone lines right now, so jump in. I have a ton of things on my list to talk about today. I'll get started on them, and then we'll see what happens with calls. Jump in and join us, 855-950-3835. My topics are kind of all over the board today. I have some industry stuff, some stuff on the economy, some stuff on the world and politics and what's going on. So let's jump in and get started. I'll keep an eye out for your calls. Let's start with the industry stuff. So Craig Fuller, the founder of FreightWaves, has been pretty actively posting over on Twitter a lot of charts, and they're not looking good. I mean, most of them I've been following. One topic he posted a chart on. I just read something on this yesterday, and I was shocked, so I made a note that I needed to go check on some of these things, and then Craig posted the data I was looking for this morning. We've talked a lot about this tender rejection, where the contract freight gets turned down, and the more often that happens, the worse of a sign that is for us. So the number's down again. I mean, we're watching it every day now. It's technically setting a record, but it's not because of COVID. So this is a new number. This number just started being tracked in 2018. This was a new index they created at FreightWaves. The lowest it's ever been was like 2.57, but that was during the COVID lockdown. So that number's really an anomaly. We're in the 2.7 range now. That's really low. It's not a good sign. And, we keep wondering, where is the bottom? One of the reasons we're having a hard time finding the bottom is we have both halves of the equation are moving in the wrong direction still. When I say halves of the equation, I'm talking about supply and demand. It's what determines pricing of everything. So we know the demand is going down. That is our biggest issue. There's not enough freight, and demand is going down. We've heard about a lot of bankruptcies in trucking and owner-operators dropping like flies. We're talking about it, and yet supply is not going down. In fact, it's going up. At the very best, it's staying steady. So all of the bankruptcies and owner-operators going out of business, the person might be leaving the position they're in, or the company might disappear. The capacity isn't. Somebody is picking up the trucks and drivers, and we're about even. We have not lost any capacity in the market yet. And that's a problem. That just means this will take longer to get through. I think there's a lot of reasons. One of the reasons that Craig talked about in the article I didn't really understand till he put it out there. There are large-scale construction projects around the country that are coming to an end. Then that got me thinking, construction itself, even if you don't take into account these large-scale projects, home construction is obviously slowing down. Commercial real estate is a big issue right now. And, we talked about this a couple years ago when the lockdowns happened and everybody started working at home. Now, a lot of companies are bringing their workers back in, but a lot of those companies are also laying a lot of people off. Commercial real estate looks like it's about to be decimated. So there won't be much new construction going on at all in homes or commercial real estate. what happens, that you get a double whammy in the trucking industry when that happens. Construction creates a lot of work for us. It creates a lot of movement of freight, which is a really good thing. When that slows down, that's whammy number one. Whammy number two is those construction workers tend to migrate into trucking when construction slows down. We usually still have more opportunities. At least there's something there. Even when it's bad in trucking, it's usually better than it is in construction. This is a common pattern. We've watched it for years. People come out of construction into trucking. Then when construction picks back up, they move out of trucking. It's a common pattern, but it's really going to create havoc with rates and volumes in the industry. And then on top of that, the COVID effects on real estate and commercial real estate are going to be a big factor in this as well. I was reading a post by an owner-operator that said, boy, things are getting tough. I'm going to have to really clamp down, and here's what I'm doing to make it through this. So he was kind of giving advice in the post. There were some things in there like, maybe it's time to slow down. Certainly not bad advice. I would be a lot more adamant about it's really time to be really aggressive in cutting cost. But in his advice piece, he finished it by saying, you know what? And oh, well, if none of this works, my banker says that bankruptcy is a financial strategy, not the end of the world. I just hate attitudes like that. We do have bankruptcy laws for a reason. I'm pretty familiar with them because I was staring down the barrel of a bankruptcy a couple of times in my business career. It's no fun. And I can remember the bankruptcy attorneys are the first to jump in and tell you, oh, absolutely, you should do it. Well, no, you shouldn't. I created a whole bunch of debt by the mistakes that I made, and to just walk away from that debt because it was easy just did not feel right. I was still in my 20s the first time this happened. But I thought, that's just not right. If there's still a chance I can pay this money back, I'm going to. And I did. I managed to make it through twice, two times in my business career. I've been really close to bankruptcy. I made it through both times. So that attitude, well, if this doesn't work, I'll just file bankruptcy. That's bullshit. We got to stop that kind of stuff. That's the kind of thinking that is destroying capitalism. That selfish, well, I'll just take the easy way out. No, you fight like hell to fix the mistakes you made. And then if you ultimately do have to file bankruptcy, that's what the law is there for. It shouldn't be an easy escape, though, and we shouldn't have attitudes like that. And I can't believe that came from a banker. Or maybe I can believe it came from a banker. On top of that, if we don't have enough things to worry about and struggle in trucking right now, I'm seeing all kinds of headlines about new, tougher EPA standards on cars and trucks. The Biden administration just announced the toughest ever standards on cars. There's a new one coming out on trucks. What a mess. What an absolute mess this whole thing is. I am going to make a statement here, and I can't believe I'm actually at this point, but I am. I am now totally willing to call myself an anti-vaxxer. I was never anti-vax in that traditional sense, and maybe I should have been. I was skeptical. It was a very confusing issue, and now I understand why it was confusing, because the government and the big pharma companies made it confusing. I don't believe in vaccines at all anymore. We need to start over on that completely. The government lost me completely on that one. Here's another one. Go back over the last 6 or 7 years of my shows. I've been a pretty big proponent of the whole electrical movement. Talked about how much I love the tools that I've got that are electric. What an awesome improvement that's been on the tool side and equipment side. And I think electric vehicles could be pretty awesome. And yet I will now say I'm anti-EV. They've lost me. We are going to screw the pooch so bad on this whole electric vehicle electrification. I am just sick with what the government is doing with this. So now I'm totally anti-EV. I almost, when we bought our last new vehicle, the Range Rover, almost bought a Tesla. I was seriously thinking about it. I wanted to experience an electric vehicle. I thought the Teslas, especially for the way we drive a car, I don't commute. It wouldn't be any big inconvenience for me to have an electric vehicle. It would probably work really well for me. I'm not doing it. I'm so glad I didn't buy one then. And then I did say my next vehicle will be electric. No, I've changed my mind. They've lost me. I will do nothing to promote the move to electric. Not the way they're doing it. They are making a total mess of it, and it has nothing to do with the environment. In fact, I will predict the way they're pushing EVs, we will screw the environment. It's going to get far worse because they're making a mess of this. Let the free market do it, and they're just not. So they're going to hit us with all kinds of penalties. They're going to make it very difficult to own an internal combustion engine, and they're going to do everything in their power to push us to these electric vehicles, and it's a mistake. So they've totally lost me on two big issues. All right, what else do I have here? I know I had a ton of stuff going on. This one, I'm going to throw this out. I was thinking about doing an entire open, almost an hour on this topic and what our world might look like in the future. But I need to do some real thinking on this. Not that I haven't been. I have a lot. In fact, it's one of the problems. I spend way too much time reading bad news and thinking about where we're going on so many issues. I thought I would do a whole show on all the things that seem to be so screwed up in our world. And then I started working on it and got even more depressed. So I'm going to set that one aside. But here's something I am concerned about. There were a couple topics that we used to really avoid. You know, it just didn't say certain things, and it wasn't to be politically correct. It was just that there are certain things we probably shouldn't say. And it doesn't have anything to do with free speech, just common sense. We don't talk about civil war in this country. You know, that's something we're very, very careful not to mention or threaten or allude to. Well, let me correct myself. That used to be the way it was, just not that long ago. You just didn't do that. It's just not a good idea. You know, it's kind of like everybody wants to throw Hitler into the mix. We should just stop that. Stop comparing people to Hitler. It's not a good idea. We shouldn't be talking so blatantly or cavalierly about civil war, but we are. It's mentioned quite often now in this country. That's a scary thought. It really is. Let's just think about it for a second. You can't compare it to the first Civil War. That was geographical. It was the North versus the South. And if you've read anything about the Civil War, that was pretty horrendous because relatives and friends were fighting each other, but that's nothing compared to what would happen today if we had a civil war. It would not be geographical, not at all. And the fact that it was geographical made it less bad. Imagine today if there were a civil war. Again, we never used to even talk about this. But if there were, it is ideological. It's not geographical. The war would be between different ideas of how we should run this country, meaning geographically we're all mixed up. Look at me. Boy, talk about behind enemy lines with my politics in the state that I live in. But think about that. That's how the whole country is. I mean, the only geographic split you can kind of apply to this is most of the blue voters are in cities and most of the red voters are outside of cities somewhere in the suburbs and in the more rural area. I guess the suburbs are really mixed. The cities tend to be very blue. The rural areas seem to be very red, and everything else seems to be purple. That creates a really big issue. So it's kind of scary that we're talking about that, and I see that being thrown around so casually. At the same time, on the world stage, for a long, long time, we've avoided the word nuclear. And we're talking about that all the time now. We're talking about how many countries have the capability, who could hit us here in the continental United States. Will Russia drop one on Afghanistan if things get too bad? We're talking about it way more than we should be. And again, we can't use World War II as a comparison. If it happens, it's going to be a very, very different war this time. And I'm a little shocked that we're talking about it. And let's throw in one more. And this came out of nowhere and it happened fast. But I would also say that we need to be very, very careful that we don't end up in some kind of goofy war with artificial intelligence and bots. This is happening so fast, this artificial intelligence and what's possible or what it might be capable of. And it is like full steam ahead, and nobody's really trying to take their time. And as this rolls out, really dig deep into some of these issues. It's really a very, very interesting time, to say the least. What else did I have? I had a ton of stuff today. I think I'm going to get to some calls, though. I'll get to some calls, find out what's on everybody else's mind, and then maybe I'll come back to some of these topics. If you want to jump in, now's the time. 855-950-3835. I will stay here and take your questions until we run out, or until 10 o'clock, and then we will head on into Rolling Toe with Mike and Kevin Beckett. Let's get started in Texas today. Gary, welcome to the program.
Hello, Kevin. I'm up to a bad area up here, not too many miles, so I hope. But I did a news review, and I was going to see if you wanted to go over that with me or if you could.
Sure. Yeah, I've got it here right in front of me. Kind of an interesting NutriQ. I might be able to make some guesses, but tell me about your diet.
Well, ever since I've got this SIBO, or I don't know if it's SIBO or not, but about a month ago or maybe 5 weeks ago, my diet's always been good according to the way you teach to eat.
Yeah, I thought so. Yeah, and
the last few weeks, I've strictly been carnivore. That's
got it. Okay. And our biggest issue with you is the upper digestive discomfort that we believe right now is SIBO. Looking at the NutriQ, I think we're on the right track. I think we've got to address this as SIBO, and that may be the only thing we have to deal with here.
Now, I did do the breast test, and I've got an appointment with my doctor Monday, and I'm hoping she'll go over that breast test with me.
Yeah, I'd like to see the results. There are we don't always test for everything that could be an indication of SIBO. If it's positive, we know for sure you've got it. If it's negative, we can't rule it out completely. We still have to look at it. So SIBO is bacteria up in the upper digestive tract where it doesn't belong. And it causes problems because it starts to ferment our food early in the process, and that fermentation causes gas. That's where we get the pain, the discomfort, the bloating, but then it disrupts the rest of the digestive process as well. So it gets confusing because we see other digestive issues start to pop up, but it almost always comes back to the SIBO. Clear that up, and usually everything else resolves. So it'd be interesting to see the test, but I think either way, I would approach this as let's assume it's SIBO causing the problem and work on that.
Okay. So right now, the only thing I'm doing, and the only thing I've been doing, is I went to the strict carnivore diet. Is that the route I need to go at this time?
Yeah, and it's absolutely the best way to go. We're worried about fermentation in the gut here, and animal products are the hardest to ferment. You're not going to get fermentation of animal products in the gut. Any plant matter you might consume is what would ferment. So getting rid of the plants at this point is actually a good strategy. You may even get some relief from that. We would actually stop probiotics and fermented foods for a little while. We don't want to add that load into this right now. We'll go back to them, of course, but we would drop those right now. And I would start with just the original version of Atrantil. We do have a new, super version for those really, really tough cases of SIBO that we just can't get rid of. But I like to start with the regular product, the one that's been around forever. We have really, really good results with it. And that's it. I mean, this 99% chance this will just resolve itself with that plan. And if not, then we move on to the next version of Atrantil.
So on Atrantil, when I order that, just take it according to the directions on the package?
Yep. Just take it just as the dose says, pretty straightforward. Usually one bottle of this is all we're going to need if you're doing the other stuff right, and you are. So I think we should probably get through this pretty quick.
It does seem like it's getting better, quite a bit better.
Good. That's a good sign.
Yeah.
That's a good sign that we're on the right track. You cut out the plants. Things got better. That's a pretty good chance you were fermenting those plants high up in your gut.
Yeah, when I go to the restroom, just Kate, it's beginning to firm up some.
Good,
so
good.
That's a good sign also.
Yeah, it is. Like I said, that SIBO is way, way up high. It starts there, but it disrupts the rest of the digestive system. So we see other symptoms, and sometimes those will confuse doctors, and they'll go chase those symptoms. But the root cause of everything that's happening with your digestion right now, I believe, is SIBO. So let's go attack that first.
Yeah. Okay. And can I ask you what causes SIBO? And how does it come on? Or
so there's a there's a couple things. Too many plants, too many fermented foods, and we tell people eat all the fermented foods you want. You know, we are now backing off on how many plants we eat. I don't believe humans should be eating that many plants, so sometimes that's part of it. There's a theory that let me get this valve right. The ileocecal valve, I believe, is the one between the small and large intestine. And it's like think of like a trash can where you step on the little pedal and the trash can lid flips open, and then when you take your foot off, it closes again, right? That's kind of how we have a couple digestive valves that work similar to that. It's not perfect, but it's kind of gives you an idea. Those valves can get weak, and sometimes it's a nutritional deficiency. This is the same thing that happens with heartburn. but that is the lower esophageal sphincter that gets weak and starts to drop open. So sometimes nutritional deficiencies or other issues, stress causes that valve to start to kind of get weak and open. That allows the bacteria to migrate out of your large intestine where we want it, and it gets up into the small intestine where we don't want it. So our first job is let's get rid of the bacteria where it doesn't belong. And if it doesn't come back, then we're good. If it does come back, then we have to go see, okay, so SIBO wasn't the root cause. There's something that keeps allowing the SIBO to happen. That's the root cause, and we've got to go figure out what it is.
Okay. And looking back now that I know this, I've had poopy problems for at least 10 years. And,
Yep.
And like, I mean, it just hadn't been right for many years. And so maybe this was something that just gradually worked up to where I'm at now, and I didn't know it.
Yeah, very possible. You know, the symptoms early on are things that people experience all the time. I mean, do you know anybody that at some point hasn't eaten a meal and sat there and felt like, whoa, I feel awful? We've all been there. Sometimes we just eat too much.
I know a lot of people have got a lot of friends that's got poopy problems now, so they may be headed down the same road I am.
That's the thing. I mean, think of how much we used to talk about digestion on this show. It was an everyday thing. It was constant.
Right.
And look at how many different digestive kits we ended up developing. And it worked. We don't talk about digestion nearly as much as we used to. The people who follow these types of diets have fewer and fewer problems. And once they have a problem, I haven't found one we can't fix yet. We're always able to figure it out and fix it. The general population, I mean, think about, I don't know anybody who doesn't suffer from digestive issues anymore. I mean, it's just so common.
Yeah. Yeah. So, in your opinion, I just need to keep doing, I don't need to have a follow-up meeting or anything with,
I don't think so.
What's your name that does it?
Laura, no.
Just continue doing what I'm doing and see what turns up.
I would give this at least 30 days. One full round of the bottle of Atrantil, however long that lasts. And when that time period's over, if you don't have complete remission, if you don't have complete, removal of all the symptoms, then reach back out to us and we'll go from there. If everything's fine, then just carry on.
I'll sure do it, Kevin. I appreciate it a lot.
You're welcome. Thanks for the call. Let's go to Texas. Fred, welcome to the program.
Hey, Kevin.
What's on your mind today?
So, I wanted to talk about that FreightWaves article, but then on hold, I had a few other things that came in. On the real estate, I believe you're right on the commercial, but because of the lack of inventory, I think you might be missing a little bit on the residential building. I think the credit crisis is going to be a lot worse for the economy than anyone's counting on. The refinancing of debt and these mortgages on a commercial real estate, I think are going to go into free fall because of people working remotely now and not using these office spaces. And just the tightening of the banks for credit is really going to hurt a lot of small businesses that use revolving credit.
Yes.
To keep afloat.
Yes. Absolutely.
So this is the main I think the main thing that people are missing.
Hey, I just thought of something.
In my opinion, anyway.
I just thought of something. Sir. You know how I feel about factoring.
Yes.
And factoring, for the most part, in the last 10 years, the rates to factor, they did get a lot better. You know, I used to talk about factoring rates at 5 and 6%. Now, that's the factor rate. And then we have to try
Yes.
to explain to people that if the factoring rate is 5%, then if you want to compare that to any other way of borrowing money, you have to convert that to an annual interest rate, which makes it a 60% interest rate. Now, if anybody wants to call and argue with me the math today, I'll be happy to do it. I've been arguing that math for 30 years, and people don't get it. Over time, those rates have been coming down year after year after year. We got down into, I've seen some deals at 3%. And people will say, oh, look,
I've actually had offered us 1.5%.
I think it did really, really get down. But then we have to throw in the other confusing factor of, is it recourse or non-recourse? And that confuses people.
Right.
If it's, one or the other, that rate can change pretty dramatically. But even at 3%, I had to tell people that is still a 36% annual interest rate. You are being raped. These are horrible rates to even consider, but people do it. Well, I have to believe those factor rates are going back up. They're based on interest rates.
Oh, I can't see how they're not.
Right.
I can't see how they're not.
So there's another whammy at a time when owner-operators need to do everything they can to cut costs to the bone. If they've been depending on factoring, those costs are going up.
Yes. Well, I got, you always say that the money in trucking is in with trailers. I have a very good example of that actually today. One of my customers I'm doing a chemical work for called me last night. I was actually just finished getting the trailer washed out. And he says, are you busy tomorrow? And I actually wasn't. And I said, no. I said, I have nothing. I have your load on Friday. He said, you still have your flatbed? I said, yeah. He says, well, I have a load of totes going locally. You want to do it?
Awesome.
I'm like, absolutely.
Yes.
So I did that load. I'm actually in my yard finished for the day. That's how quick it was.
Nice.
It won 72 miles, and he paid me $1,000 for it. I'm okay with that. I'll do that every day.
I think
every day,
absolutely. Yeah, it sounds to me like it was a pretty light load.
No, it was 16 totes, and it was on the flatbed, so it doesn't have the slosh. I don't know if you ever hauled a tank before, but with these single barrel tanks,
right?
If you stop the wrong way, it feels like someone rear-ended you.
Yeah.
So on the flatbed, the totes, it doesn't have any movement, so it's just like a regular load. So I loaded at a place I go to regular.
When I heard totes,
so they know me. They got me in and out.
I was used to the return totes empty. I used to do a lot of that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So, I got there this morning and they're like, what are you doing here with a flatbed? I said, oh, that's what I got today. And so they took 2 forklifts and they loaded me. I was out of there in 25 minutes. I ran over to the place that I delivered to, which I've been to with the tank. And they saw me and they came right over and unloaded me. And it was 40 minutes from my yard. So nice. I'm back home.
Nice. Yeah.
If
you pay attention, you can pick trailers up at awesome deals all the time. We can buy older trailers. We don't need to buy real new equipment. We don't have any emission issues with trailers. So you can pick up trailers at a price that allows you to park them. And a lot of times, if you use them once a month, it makes sense to have it there.
Right. Well, that's just it. I had this trailer sitting here, and a good friend of mine saying, what are you going to do with that new trailer? Because the flatbed I have is a 2021 Fontaine, aluminum spread axle, lift axle. It's a really nice trailer.
Yeah, it is.
Right. So I'm like, I don't know. He says, why don't you get rid of it? Because you're in a tank business now. And I said, yeah, maybe. So I actually called the dealer I bought it off of, and he said, send me pictures. And I procrastinated around the last few weeks, and all of a sudden now I got that load. I'm like, you know what? It's not costing me anything to hold it.
No, it's really not.
I think I'll just keep it.
Yes. Yeah.
So
absolutely.
it's paid for. It's there's nothing that I need to do to it.
Right.
I actually replaced all the tires last year. So it's brand new. The tires maybe have 30,000 miles on them. So
Nice.
yeah.
Can you believe the idea? I was shocked when I saw this number that we're not losing any capacity in the industry.
Not yet.
Right.
Not yet.
Not yet.
I think that's going to come now.
Yeah.
Listen, I had a very interesting conversation with a Schneider broker. Him and I became, we started chatting, and he told me, now this is Schneider, Tank Work. He said that he has a bunch of customers that he had contracts with that negated the contract because it's cheaper on the spot market. So work he thought he was going to have all year long is no longer theirs.
Correct. Yep.
And that's what's happening with these big carriers. So that might be some of the fallout why we don't see the small carriers going out of business yet.
Yeah, I think when you see the rates where they are, they've dropped fast. We were talking about for a while, the rates really aren't coming down that much as we would expect them to. Well, that changed quickly. The rates are dropping like crazy. The tender rejection is dropping every day. We're watching that number. And yet we see this number that, 100,000 new trucks came into the market. They're not new trucks. We're just
really. Oh, you're saying new? Okay.
People are still coming in. That's why we're kind of at a net even. We are losing trucks. Trucking companies are going bankrupt. We know it. I report on it all the time. Owner operators are going bankrupt. I report on it. The problem is, or the situation is, there's work out there somewhere, and there's still good enough rates that people are buying these trucks and hiring the drivers. So it hasn't stopped yet. And clearly there's too much capacity and not enough volume, but nobody's figured that out yet.
Well, I mean, when you look at this, like with my situation, when a broker or a customer or if you have direct freight, when they have a good carrier and they don't want to lose them, they're not going to really go to dropping the rates so quickly. Number one. And number two, if they're going to need more capacity because their sector is busy, they're going to look at that carrier to grow. So there is some, I guess, validity to that.
Yeah, it's just, and it's nothing we didn't know. We knew this was coming. We've predicted it may be one of the worst we've ever faced. There's a lot of reasons to believe that. It's not just speculation. We're looking at history. We're looking at the numbers, and everything seems to point to the fact that this will be longer and deeper than any recession we've been through.
Yeah, I believe you're right. Now I watched a Tucker Carlson Today interview yesterday while I was waiting to get the trailer washed out, and the headline is capitalism in crisis. And this guy is a think tank guy, and he has a very unique perspective on how we got to where we are and why it's not changing. I think you should watch it, and then maybe you can comment on it, or we can revisit it, because I'm going to do it a disservice to some degree.
I'll check that out.
Yesterday.
Yeah, I'll check that out.
Capitalism in crisis. Yeah.
One more topic I want to throw out while I've got you on the line here. We started talking about with the train derailment, how many trains are derailing, what's with all these toxic fires, what's going on. We had chicken plants exploding and food manufacturing places going up in smoke, and we were talking about that for a while. There have been a couple big ones here in the last couple of days. There was a big fire in Richmond, Indiana. It was at an industrial facility. They store plastics and other recyclable materials. Huge fire, big smoke plume that they say is toxic. They were evacuating people. Turns out that one was started by a commercial truck at the dock. The truck caught
Oh,
on
wow.
fire and then spread to the building and became this massive, massive blaze. And like I said, it's toxic. But then there's another one. When I first saw this one yesterday, I thought it was a hoax, but it's not. Did you see that there have been 2 big dairy fires at dairy facilities? The first one before I had a chance
something
to.
about that explosion.
Well, the first
down-
one before I
down here in Texas.
even had a chance to go figure out what was going on with the first one, another one happened. The one you're talking about in Texas, 18,000 cows died. Wait a minute.
Yes.
How is that possible?
Well, I'll tell you what they
happened
said
to
on the
them?
news today.
18,000. Let's
I'll
think
tell you
about
what
this
they
for a second. We have explosions in buildings with people in them all the time. You know, if you have 3 or
Right.
4 or 5 or 6 people die in an explosion, that's a really, really big thing. How do you have an explosion that kills 18,000 animals?
No, it's not the explosion. See, I thought the same as you. It was the smoke inhalation that asphyxiated the cows. So it was the aftermath of the explosion. Yeah, I didn't know what happened there. And I'm like, and actually the person, there was a female inside the building and she's actually got airlifted. I think she's going to make it.
Wow.
So
Crazy.
that's I heard that on Fox, I think on early morning Fox News, they were talking about it. And that was the report I heard.
Huh.
Like 4:00 this morning. I haven't really listened to the news since then, but
So
another thing,
you always wonder, it's why is so much of this centered around food facilities?
I don't know.
That makes
I
you
have
wonder.
no idea.
Yeah. That
Makes you scared.
it does. It really does.
One thing I was thinking about actually this morning. So I had a friend. He was actually somewhat of a partner, kind of like a percentage partner of mine when I had my heating oil business in New York. And this guy, like people look at us now about carnivore and keto, and they say that we're strange. We're the norm, but we're strange, you know. So this guy here was all about sun worship. He was all about this spirulina and a few other things. Do you have any knowledge about this? Because I was thinking about this guy Joe just recently about that, and he used to make some kind of smoothie with chia seed and spirulina and all kinds of stuff.
Here's where I would go with that. So I am very familiar with spirulina, also referred to as blue-green algae. One of the best,
right, blue-green algae, right.
One of the best sources in the world of the cleanest, most potent blue-green algae is right here in Oregon, Crater Lake. Here's my take on all of this. Look, I've tried these things when they come out. Oh, let me try that. Let me see what happens. Nothing. Zero. Nothing has ever improved or changed from any of these crazy superfoods that they always talk about. And there have been tons of them. So now I also start thinking about Sally K. Norton's book. Not only are they not superfoods, they're not getting us something we absolutely need. They're toxic.
Okay.
I'm not a fan of this kind of stuff. Let's think about something. And her and I, we talked about this in the miniseries. If these superfoods are so important to human health, the problem is 99.9% of the population never had access to them. If this stuff only grows in Crater Lake in Oregon, how could it be that important for human health? And all of these other superfoods all seem to grow somewhere in the Amazon rainforest. Well, that doesn't make sense.
Right. Yeah, because I was when I had my accident and I blew my tendons apart. I was laid up at the house, and he was over my house every day, bringing me sushi. And then he started talking to me about this. And me, because I've always been somewhat like you, worked out, always kind of. And I'll try anything,
Me too.
And see how it works. And so he was making me these smoothies, and I was drinking them, and I was losing weight anyway because I just kind of put myself on, and not that like a Atkins diet at the time, because that's what I knew. Where it wasn't quality food, but it was just mostly meats. It was mostly some dairy, and I actually lost 20 pounds sitting stagnant for 4 months, just because I wasn't eating the carbs and all the garbage, you know. But yeah, I was drinking these shakes, and I'm like, these smoothies. I'm like, I don't really see any. It didn't make me feel more energetic.
Nothing.
And I'm saying to myself, maybe, yeah. I mean, and he was, playing handball every day and walking and running, and he, and a permanent tan. He would go to Florida in the winter to make sure he kept his sun exposure up. It just one of those guys, He looked like Donald Trump, where he's orangey tan all the time.
Right. And here's the thing. He could have kept doing all those things, which are all good. Get more sun, I get it. Be active, be outdoors. I get all that. He could have done all those same things, dropped all his goofy, weird supplements, and nothing would have been different.
Yeah. He went to his holistic NTP, he said, you have to come over to Brooklyn and meet her and all this. I'm like, yeah. I didn't do all of that at the time. At the time he was the wacko. Now we probably get more.
Oh, absolutely. Right. And I have been there right there with him. I've tried all these things. That's how I came to my opinions. I tried them. I did the research.
I spent a ton of money on this stuff, put it in the cabinet, making myself smoothies and stuff like that. And I'm like, after a month or two, I'm like, none of this stuff is really working.
It doesn't.
Let's go back to scotch and steak.
Yeah, none of these superfoods that come around. And here's the other thing. If something really works, the odds are, it's not a slam dunk, but the odds are it will probably catch on. Let's look at what's happened with paleo, keto, carnivore. This movement has grown and grown and grown. It's not a fad like everybody said. It's working and it's growing. I can't think of I can go back 30 years and I can't think of a single superfood that is actually popular and people consume every day now. Why not? If these things are so great,
that's why we're getting
something would have caught on.
Right. And that's why we're getting the pushback on the keto-like diet and how it's toxic for people and you're going to die of cholesterol or, and all this other stuff, So, but I was going to ask you, while I got you on the phone, I was thinking about making the Davis SIBO yogurt.
Okay.
Should I just do it like the L-Reuteri, throw the three bacterias in there and maybe a little extra inulin? Or how
three bacteria? Which three bacteria are you talking about?
Well, wasn't there L-Reuteri and two other ones?
In the SIBO. That's right. Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
You right. It's same thing. And you really don't need any extra inulin. I don't believe he probably has the amount.
Okay,
right.
I'm just thinking.
No, I don't think you should.
I'm thinking more bacteria, maybe more food for them to eat in the 36 hours.
Without doing a lot of testing over and over and over, we'll never be completely accurate with this stuff. But I think Dr. Davis has done enough that I would trust his amounts and his times and his temperatures.
Yeah, I mean, one of the tribe members actually reached out to me privately, and he sent me a digital copy of his book last night, which was very nice. I want to thank him. He should, if he's listening, he'll hear me. I haven't had a chance to open it, but I figured you've made it, or you've made a lot of this yogurt.
Yeah.
So getting it from you would be spot on. And I got your comment on the clay bath. Now, what with just very hot water and blend that, and then dump it in a bath?
Yeah. Yep. That's all you do is just, and I think if I remember right, those instructions are on the can that tell you how much to put in the blender. And I have a really, really big soaking tub. I love hot baths, so I have a big soaking tub. So it takes me if I remember right, it takes me like 4 blenderfuls to do it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I haven't taken a bath and I couldn't tell you when. So while the wife is away, I might do that. I don't know.
Yeah. It's my favorite place to read. It's the most comfortable. I never realized why. Well, you're almost weightless. It's a really, really comfortable way to read. So and even without the clay, a hot bath is detoxing. We talked about that
Right.
yesterday. Anything that now we don't realize we're sweating because we're underwater. You know what first made me think about this? Like I said, I take a lot of hot baths. What first made me realize something was happening is every time I get out of a hot bath, I'm like crazy thirsty. I'm like, what's with that? And then it dawned on me, you're probably sweating a lot. You just don't realize it.
Now, what do you like? They have the salt baths, like my wife had I forgot the name of it. They're in a blue package.
Epsom salt.
Yeah, Epsom salt.
Oh,
They have different.
You know what Epsom salt is?
Magnesium, right?
Yeah, it's magnesium, and you will absorb it right through your skin. Taking Epsom salt
Right.
baths
I think that's another thing I'm going to have.
Right. Yeah. Oh, I put Epsom salt in the bath every time. I have 6 different, varieties of Epsom salts.
Right.
Epsom
my wife has the one. It's in a blue bag. I think Dr.
Yep, same one I've got. Same one. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's basically just Epsom salts, which is magnesium, and then they use essential oils. Like they might use lavender, which is good for sleep. They might use citrus, which is actually good for kind of waking you up. And really good things. And then add the magnetic clay a couple times, and that's really, really detoxing. You know, I've never experienced one. Lisa actually did this once with some of the employees and a team from the company. There are these sensory deprivation chambers you can go do. You can find them in usually any major city. And what they do is it's like you're enclosed in kind of a bubble or a tunnel kind of thing. There's water in there, so you're in water. It's salt water, and they use enough salt in the water that you achieve neutral buoyancy. So you can, I don't float. I mean, I sink like a rock. Swimming is not easy for me. I've been in the water my whole life. I love the water. I'm a very, very comfortable swimmer. I'm not fast, not even close. I'm one of the I don't know why I swim so slow, but I just do. As much as time as I've spent in the water. And again, I'm comfortable. If I had to swim a mile to save my life, I could do it. But I just don't float well. But in these tanks, you do. They put in enough salt so that you actually achieve neutral buoyancy, and you don't have to work at it. You can just lay there and you float perfectly. And they're dark, and there's certain sounds going on so that it takes away all sensory input. You don't feel gravity. You don't see light. The sounds you hear are very neutral. And it's supposed to be a way to just kind of clear your mind. And there's some detoxing of I almost want to, install one of those at home, or figure out, how I can turn my deep soaking tub into, how much salt do I have to put in there to make it neutral buoyancy?
Yeah. I'll tell you, another thing I wanted to comment on was the Civil War thing. Okay. And that always brings me back to actually a movie, an old John Wayne movie with Rock Hudson called The Undefeated. And it's the very first part of the movie. It's right at the end of the Civil War, and John Wayne is a colonel in the Union Army, and he's fighting a rebel battalion. And he goes over there with a white flag, and he talks to a one-armed lieutenant. And the guy, listen, Lee surrendered to Grant. And he says, yes, sir, we know. And he says, how long have you known? And he said, 2 days. He says, so why'd you keep on fighting? He says, because you're on our land. And he said, but we're all Americans. And he said, that's always been the saddest part about it. We're all Americans and we're killing each other. And it just, when I saw that when I was a little boy, it just kind of resonated with me. Like 700,000 Americans lost their life, close to it, in the Civil War.
It was horrendous. And I said, it's family members, it's friends, it's relatives, it's acquaintances. And we live in a world now, or a country, that is very, very different. I personally know people who live all over the country. I personally know
Yep.
people who have very different ideological views that I have. It's a scary
Yep.
thought to think of where we're headed with this and how do we stop it?
Yeah, I mean, I hear a lot of people making light of it. Oh, they don't have guns because they're liberals. Well, that's not always true. But who cares about that?
Exactly.
Why would you even go there?
Right. Right. And I've joked about it, because there was a time
Right.
when you didn't take this seriously. You kind of laughed it off so it didn't become serious. I'm not joking about this anymore. This is a concern.
Yeah. No, I know.
And
Because
I don't know
no
if
one
anybody
in a leadership position
and it's
is even trying to stop it.
not at all. Not at all.
No one.
They're not even acknowledging that it's happening.
Yeah, that's the scary part about it, and they just keep pushing and pushing and pushing. Like this whole look at what happened with Anheuser-Busch with this whole transgender thing. They're down $5 billion in market value.
I think it's more now. I think it's approaching 7 now.
It might be more now, but this was yesterday, and
Right.
I'm like, just like. Nothing against transgendered people. This is just, you're pushing a narrative that 99% of the country is not that.
You know who's one of the most outspoken critics of this whole thing? Caitlyn Jenner.
Yes. Oh, big time. Yes, Caitlyn Jenner is very against men and women's sports. He says
Yes.
it. Well, she says it, whatever you want to call them. Says it all the time.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that is a really, really confusing issue right now. I don't get it at all. This is such a tiny percentage of the population, first off. There's
Right.
so many things we could talk about this. Why now is this becoming such a big issue? I have my opinions, and it has to do with we do have a pandemic in this country. We have a shortage of testosterone.
Which one is it?
I don't know what.
Hello?
Are you there? No, I'm still here.
Kevin.
Oh boy.
Kevin.
Angie, are you hearing me? We seem to be having an audio issue here. I still hear Fred, but he doesn't seem to be hearing.
Yeah, they are.
me.
They are. I got you now.
Oh, am I back?
Hello? Yeah, you're back. Yeah, I lost you there for a second. You were saying there's a pandemic in this country, and I didn't hear your answer.
Yeah, there is. It's a shortage of testosterone, and I'm serious.
Oh, no, 100%.
And there not only a shortage of testosterone, a imbalance of all the hormones that are really important, but the biggest one seems to be a lack of testosterone in males, and them believing that they are now females. And there's biology behind that. It's testosterone that makes us feel like a male. So when these people say they feel like they're trapped in a woman's body, they're correct. That doesn't mean God meant them to be a woman. It means that our diet is so
all
screwed
the soy
up.
products.
Exactly. Their
All
hormones
the soy
are so
all the soy
out of
products.
whack.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
And not enough meat.
And the vegetarian, I said this before, I think the youth of today, because we're getting more and more secular, and this is not about being holier than thou, because I've done way more than my fair share of sins.
Yeah, exactly.
But I always had faith, and I always believed in a higher power, and I would be judged one day for the stuff I've done. They've taken that away, and I think the youth is searching for something to hold on to give them some kind of belonging, which the church and everything gave everyone belonging back, whether it was a synagogue, a mosque, or a Christian or a Catholic church, that gave everyone a sense of belonging in a community.
Absolutely. That's diminished and disappearing. There's something else though that gave people a sense of belonging and a job, a career, a business. That used to be a very, very big focus. That's where a lot of us got our meaning from outside of religion.
Yeah.
That the attitude towards work and careers and jobs and businesses has changed dramatically. They're not all that interested in any of those things. They seem to believe that somehow work is evil and that they shouldn't have to. That's a really dangerous way to think.
Yeah, capitalism is evil.
Right.
And I'm telling you, you're going to be very interested in that interview, because it really hits on this whole notion that we're talking about, this whole work. And another statistic I heard, and I don't know how true this is. So you know how they have the jobs that there was 10 million jobs, now it's down to 9 million jobs available.
Right.
I've heard that there is a percentage, almost as high as 10% of those jobs that are just fishing jobs. They're not even available. They're not even there.
I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure. No doubt.
You know?
Yeah.
So this job market isn't as robust as they want to say it is.
No, it's not. And it's not going to save us from this recession. It's only going to prolong how long it takes us to get fully into the recession, which will prolong how long it takes us to get out of it.
Right. Yep. 100%.
And part of the problem
with this government,
part of the problem is we still have a lot of companies with a lot of cash left over from the last couple of years. Good economy, governments handing out money like it was candy. You know, I've been saying I'm concerned about our business here, and I need to be. Everybody in the country should be concerned about their business and their finances. If they don't have a business, they should be concerned about their personal finances. If you have a business, you have to be concerned about both. I'm not saying it because I'm having a hard time making payroll, or because we can't, buy a big order, we have to buy small order. We're not there. We're nowhere near that. We've been pretty responsible with our cash, but I also know enough about running a business that when your numbers drop dramatically, even if you still have plenty of cash, you can't keep doing business the way you're doing business. You've got to change. You've got to be proactive. So I don't want people to think we're knocking on bankruptcy's door. We're not. But I can't keep operating like this because our numbers are dropping like everybody else's. Our revenue is way down this year.
Right. Well, the same over here. Like, I changed the whole sector of trucking I'm doing. So it's basically like being a new carrier out here. But I saw the handwriting on the wall with the flatbed sector going south.
Right.
So not that I still have the flatbed, and not that I wouldn't take the rates at $2 a mile going somewhere. I mean, I still make money at that. But, I looked at, and so far the tank sector has been keeping everything afloat, and then some, thank God, but, not quite where I want to be. I'm putting a lot more hours in than I would love, than I like to on certain days, but it is what it is. I'm fortunate enough that I drive an older truck and I can still write, color outside the lines. For that reason, not that I'm driving 800 miles a day. It's just that, some days I'm past 16 hours.
So here's an example of why we still have this strong job market, even though we shouldn't. Where I'm sitting right now, I just said I could look at our cash position. I could look at all these projects that I've got started and not finished, and I could go out and hire 2 people right now. It would be a bad idea, though. I could do it. I could afford to. We'd get some projects done.
I think I lost you again.
Wonder what's going on. Must be the internet on my end. Anybody here?
I lost you again, Kevin.
Hello?
Yeah, there you are.
Okay.
There you are. Yep, we're back.
All right. Must have wonky,
I hear you.
wonky internet again. I could go do that, but it would be a poor business decision to go spend money on employees to finish projects into this bad of an economy. the projects probably won't even pay for themselves at this point. So I may just have to shelf
Right.
a lot of those projects because I'm worried about the news. I'm worried about the numbers. It's not looking good. I don't want to be the guy that comes on here with doom and gloom every day, but we have to get our head out of the sand and be realistic about what's happening. If I'm wrong and it's not that bad, who cares? No harm, no foul. But if I'm right and you don't
Right.
prepare for this, or I make the decision to go out and hire 2 people to finish these projects, I might not be in business this time next year. So companies, I think,
that's
are
it.
making
The decision you
mistakes.
make now,
I
yeah.
think they're taking all their excess cash, thinking this is no big deal, and they're creating jobs. And that's why we're seeing the job market isn't going away yet.
Another government stimulus is this whole $26,000 tax incentive because you kept your employees. And I don't know the whole. I mean, Mark has posted quite a few articles on this.
I can,
but you know,
tell you all
I
about
get a
it.
phone call 6 times a day.
Yeah.
6 times a day.
It's
I
a
get
scam.
a phone call for it and emails and I know it is.
It's
but I'm just
mostly
saying,
a scam,
but-
right? And here,
right, but I mean, but this is another stimulus for these
absolutely.
mid-sized companies.
This is a big program. That's $26,000 per employee.
Employee, right?
Per employee.
Right.
So there are these companies, because this government tax credit exists. Now there are companies who do nothing but spam everybody to try to get them into this program. The program does exist. It is a real thing. Some businesses do qualify for it. Most don't. If you're wondering, if you have employees and you're wondering if you qualify, don't go chase one of these goofy companies that just popped up because of this. Just go ask your accountant. My God, that's why we have accountants, and that's why we build relationships. It was the first thing I did.
Right.
As soon as they rolled this program out, I called our accountant and said, do we qualify for this? And the next morning I got an email. No, we ran the numbers. You don't qualify for it. Hey, so I can ignore it.
Right.
But I get texts, I get emails, I get phone calls.
Oh,
it's all over social media. Yeah. More
it's
government.
Every other commercial.
Bullshit.
When you're watching TV, it's either Pfizer, Moderna, or someone, Ozempic, or hey, you qualify. My accountant said I didn't qualify, but tax lending says I do.
Yeah.
Okay, well, good for you.
It's pretty straightforward. There's no loopholes here. You plug in the numbers, you either qualify or you don't. And we didn't.
Yeah, but that's another thing that I think that's artificially
it is
injecting capital into a market that's not here.
Yeah.
I mean, with this whole banking failure, the 3 banks that 2 went out and 1 got saved, that First Capital, I think it was, or whatever it is. I've heard many people on these finance shows saying that capital has dried up and the capital that is being lent is at exorbitant prices now.
Yep.
And that's why that one woman, Stephanie Pomboy, she's always on in the mornings with Maria Bartiromo on Fox Business. Her thing is there's just about $1 trillion of capital that has to be refinanced this year. And they were at 3% and 4%. They're going to be at 9% and 10% now.
Ooh. Oh, that hurts.
Yeah, she said this is going to be a devastating event, and then next year is another $1 trillion that has to be refinanced. It's just capital that has come to term, and needs to be refinanced, and they're going to double their cost in one shot.
Wow, that's a scary thought.
Yeah. Right, and then she said this is going to be carnage out here.
I am searching high and low to find some good economic news, and I'm not seeing any.
Yeah. I hate to be doom and gloom too, because I'm a glass half full guy.
Yeah,
I always try to look at the silver lining and stuff. I know I've been around I've been around 30 years. At the very least, maybe I won't get grass-fed steak every night, but that's okay.
Exactly. Right. Yeah. All right, Fred, good stuff. Calls are starting to pile up on me. I've got a time limit today. I've got about 50 minutes left, and then we'll head on into Rolling Toe. Let's get back to the phones. Let's go to California. Lewis, welcome.
Good morning, Kevin. Good to talk to you.
What's on your mind today?
Like we're talking to the about the federal deposit insurance.
Hey, Lewis, I'm going to put you back in the queue. We've got a really bad line. I'm having a hard time understanding you. I know the listeners won't be able to. Angie, could you see if we can fix that line for Lewis? And I will head off to Detroit. Robert, welcome to the program.
Hello, Kevin. Good morning. I was calling today about the guy you had on earlier with the gastric distress in his upper stomach.
Yeah.
I've suffered for that for years. And I've been to all the doctors. I've been scoped. I've been tested. She said my diabetes is what makes my stomach muscles move slower. And that's what causes any susceptible food that can rot will rot. So Parmesan cheese, cream cheese, buttermilk, anything that will go quick.
Hold on a second. Are you on any diabetic medications?
Yeah, metformin and glipizide.
So she's being dishonest. Diabetes does not cause slowing of the stomach emptying its contents. The drugs they give you for diabetes do. There's a difference.
Oh, yeah.
So what's your question for me?
I just wanted to let what happens with me when it gets real bad. It feels like kombucha in my stomach, and what I've learned to do on my own is just push my toothbrush a little further to the back of my mouth to gag a little bit, and it clears it up lick and split. I mean, it's almost like you mentioned with him, opening a trash can and just hitting the plunger, because it sends everything right out. All the distress within 20 minutes goes away.
So,
I mean, you do get diarrhea for a minute, but, it will clear it right out. I don't know what that is.
Well, I get it. The better approach to this would be to cure the diabetes and then cure the SIBO so we don't have to deal with this.
Right. I try that. I stay keto the best I can, but maybe one day I go get wings.
Robert, stop. Hold on a second. Stop lying to yourself.
Okay. Right.
Let me correct your statement. You control your diabetes, not the best that you can. That's a lie. You control your diabetes the best that you want to.
The best to pass.
Now
you got it.
You started to say something.
Do better.
You started to say something that I'm a little confused about. You said I'll be doing really good and then I'll go get wings. What kind of wings?
The wings might have Parmesan. Well, that's the thing. They're bone. There's no batter on them. They're naked. But maybe the place put Parmesan cheese on them.
What's wrong with
or maybe
Parmesan
the place that will set me right off lickety. I mean, just right now, I'll have that.
Robert, hold on. That's my point. It will, because you're approaching this the wrong way. And I'm saying this and making a point because you were calling as though you were going to be giving advice to somebody.
No, I was just trying to help a little bit. I mean, I understand.
Exactly, but you're not helping. You're the one that needs help.
Right. I get it. But if you're going to cheat and you do cheat, well, here's another cheat hack to end the, you know what I mean, to end it, because they have nothing out there that will help that. The only thing that's going to help that is to not eat that food and to get.
No, that is not true. I can eat Parmesan cheese all day long. It won't bother. Don't tell me it's just there's nothing out there to fix this. We fix it every day.
Until today, I didn't know it was the metformin causing it. I thought it was. He told me.
Hold on. It's not necessarily the metformin. The glipizide is a bigger problem. But my point is, let's say she's right. Let's say it is the diabetes causing your stomach to empty slower. It's not, but let's say it is. Well, then let's fix the diabetes. That's my point.
Right.
We can fix this. Let's stop all the stupid hacks. Let's stop blaming it on diabetes. It's fixable. We fix it every day.
Right. I get it. I sometimes life, but I was just on the.
Let me finish your sentence. Let me finish your sentence for you. Sometimes life gives us choices. We have to make the right one.
Yeah.
That's it. We can't blame this on life. It gives us choices. We get to make those choices. How we make those choices depends on, that determines what our life will be like. The choices we make every day. The choice to listen to a doctor who has kept you diabetic for years, or try something that gets rid of diabetes every time. That's a choice.
Right. And I know.
All right. So you've got a hack and you have a choice now. Keep using that hack so that you're not as uncomfortable, or go fix the root cause of the problem. 2 of them you probably have. The diabetes is a problem, a big one. It also means you have heart disease, you have kidney disease, you have liver disease, you have metabolic syndrome. The good news is we can fix it. Let's go to California. Lewis, welcome to the program.
Hi, hopefully this is better this time.
Oh, yeah, you sound much better. Go ahead.
Fantastic. Yeah, you were talking about the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation on Tuesday, I believe it was, well, other times as well. But you mentioned especially then that it was a good program, but it hadn't been carried out the way it needed to be effective because of the limit. And it occurred to me that it's just one of the government's polished turds.
Pretty much.
They take a good idea, they mix it all up and sell it to us. Then they move the funds someplace else, divert them wherever they want. And there's a long record of that, especially with the Democrats. Social Security, never designed to pay out anything.
It's funny you moved on to Social Security. That was my first thought. A program I'm not in favor of, but if it would have been done right, at least there would be some benefits to it. If it's done right, I still don't like it. I don't want people to be dependent on the government for things like this. I wish we could teach them just how to manage their money themselves. But
War on poverty.
Yeah, if we would have done it right, at least there would be some benefits. Now we've screwed it up so bad that it's just a big boondoggle.
Yeah, and a couple of times when it was coming close to maybe being halfway successful, they had to borrow the funds from it, quote unquote.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of a mess.
Another polished turd, but then they got the war on poverty, the war on drugs, the Great Society, we can keep on naming them. And again, most of them are Democrat origin. And you're talking this morning about the electric vehicle. The Democrats could care less about the environment. They have grabbed onto that because it suits their purposes. And if it didn't suit their purposes tomorrow, they'd spit it out. Basically, they're not interested in getting us into EVs. They're interested in getting us out of our independent gas vehicles.
Yeah,
they don't care where it goes. In fact, they have a vested getting it moved as quickly as possible because EVs will eventually work.
They absolutely will.
Have that big gap.
I believe it's a far better technology. Electric motors are much better than internal combustion engines. I believe that. And there's a ton of evidence. Yeah. We've pushed internal combustion engines about as far as we're going to push them. We've been working on them for over 100 years, and here we are. And all of a sudden, an electric motor comes in, and in many ways is already superior. And we've hardly scratched the surface. So I was excited about it. I was probably the biggest proponent of it. The government has turned me completely
I
against
agree.
the whole thing.
Yeah. And let's see. I guess that's about all I had on this, but I did want to throw out a plug for Pittsburgh Power's Catalyst. I've been running it in my Ford F-250 for about 3 miles, maybe a little bit. And I finally had my CP4 fuel pump blow up on me and hit my engine out. So they had to tear it all apart, put a new or a rebuilt long block in it. But I asked them when they were getting into it, I said, did you notice how clean it was? Did the cleanness, was that apparent? And the guy says, I liked it so much, I'm going to start using it in my F-250.
Well, that's good. Was this an ISX?
No, this is, like I said, it's a Ford pickup. F-250.
I
I met
missed
you
that.
one
Okay.
time. You brought yogurt samples down to me at the warehouse. And
Oh, okay.
I was there, had the gold F-250. Yeah.
Yeah, got it. Okay.
I think at that
got
time it had about 400,000 miles on it.
Yeah. Excellent.
Well, the before went at 540,000.
Okay.
But now I'm on the road for my next 500,000 with it.
There you go. Outstanding. All right. I've got to move along. I've got to watch the clock here. Calls are still coming in. We have time if you want to jump in. I've just got to keep moving through the calls here because at 10 o'clock, we'll be switching over to Rolling Toe. Let's go to Wisconsin. Brandy, welcome to the program.
Thanks, Kevin. I'm going to take my hazmat driver's license renewal tomorrow. And the state of Illinois has a revolving test. If you don't pass, you get a second test, but it's not the same one. So I bought that Unfair Advantage, and I opened it up, and then I see there are a bunch of like tabs and liquid. And one of them opened up, and I tasted it. It's like, oh, gosh. Can you put it in anything, and how long does it take before you start to feel anything?
So you can put it in whatever you want. I'm not sure why you would. Do you really find the taste that bad? I don't find it unpleasant at all.
Well, it's billed as, and maybe it dried, and then I tasted it as like, and I'm supposed to drink this? And I mean, I will. It's just I much prefer to.
I do not find it unpleasant at all. It has very, very little taste. It's really mild. There's nothing obnoxious about it.
Okay.
I would have never even thought that taste could be a problem with this product. You're only swallowing about a half an ounce. I mean, it's a really small amount.
Oh, I know that.
They're just little ampules is what they are. They're little plastic ampules. You pull the top off, squeeze it into your mouth. So the taste will not be a problem. I promise.
Okay. All right.
I feel it within a half hour.
Okay. Because it suggests that you take it four times a day, and then you...
Oh, well,
I obviously
I can promise you.
Don't have tomorrow till tomorrow.
I'm not taking it 4 times. Honestly, I believe I've said this, and the reason I don't bring it into the store, if I were driving truck, I would not use this product.
Okay.
It's too expensive, and the benefits are minimal. I don't use it every day. Not even close. I don't have any anymore. I mean,
you said you used it for conferences and stuff like that. That's
Correct.
what I heard you. Remember
when I need maximum brain clarity. That's what. Now we could say, well, don't you need that every day? Well, maybe, but this is one of those. This is almost a hack. This isn't an everyday thing because what will happen? You take this every day, the benefit will disappear. You will become so used to it that you won't notice there's any difference. So it's why we don't bring it into the store. It's why I've specifically said if I drove a truck, I would not take this product. It's too expensive and I wouldn't see the benefit. Like I say, I don't take it unless I really, really need maximum brain clarity. Like if I'm speaking somewhere. Occasionally, if I'm going to just really buckle down and work hard on a project, I might take it for a couple days, but it's not something I recommend.
Yeah. Well, I'll need the clarity tomorrow because the test is a boring subject, and then they do those changes of do this or do not do this, and that's how they get you.
Yeah, if I had a test tomorrow, if I had a test tomorrow, about 2 hours before the test, I would take 2 ampules, and about 30 minutes to an hour before I would take 2 more.
Okay, sounds like a plan. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for the call. But again, I would not, and I don't recommend this as a everyday supplement, or it's expensive. I guess there might be some other benefits. It's got CoQ10 in it, so it's probably good for your heart. But again, not something we're going to bring into the store. It's not something I do when I'm driving. That's for sure. Let's go to Texas, and I will tell you we've got some phone lines open, and we've got about 30 minutes. So if you want to jump in now, I'll be able to take some more calls. 855-950-3835. Paul, howdy.
Howdy.
What's on your mind today?
Cattle, parking in Texas, and tea tree oil.
Got it.
So if anybody runs up and down I-45 in the Corsicana area, exit 225, they just put in a 12-hour limit for big truck parking. No facilities, but just somewhere to park. It's right there off the exit.
Got it.
225 on I-45.
All right.
And the cattle that exploded,
Yeah.
if they hadn't have been in a barn, if they'd been outside like cattle are meant to be, there wouldn't have been 18,000 died.
That's kind of my point. How concentrated do these cows have to be in such a small area that you're able to kill 18,000 of them?
Yeah, they must have been living like New York style.
Exactly. They must have been stacked on top of each other.
Yeah. So, if they'd been outside, maybe it was methane explosion or something. I don't know. So,
Damn those cow farts. I know what it was.
Too many cow farts and somebody lit a match.
Well, I was just going to say, it's those juvenile cows lighting matches and goofing off trying to light their farts. That's what's going on.
It was a whole migraine. Watch this.
Hey, hold my grain, hold my beer. It's the same thing.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. One day when you were talking to somebody about Manuka honey, and you said, I think tea tree oil comes from the same tree. Well, it doesn't. Manuka honey comes from, there's a tip in the name here, tea tree oil. Comes from the tea tree. Manuka honey comes from the bees that feed off the Manuka tree.
I was close. So let me find this. Here's the answer for this one, because I did go look it up too. I never came back and talked about it. Let me see if I can find this. While Manuka is sometimes referred to as New Zealand tea tree in the essential oil world, tea tree oil is Melaleuca altifolia, whereas Manuka is Leptospermum scoparium, but they belong to the same botanical family and provide many of the same benefits. So you are correct. It's not the exact same tree. It's a different variety in the same botanical family.
Yeah. I gotta go. Hang on a minute. Okay, bye.
Well, that was weird. What do you mean you got to go? Hang on a little bit. Why would I hang on? And he's gone. So I don't know what that was all about, but we will go to Delaware. Albert, welcome to the program.
Hey, Kevin, how are you?
Good. What's on your mind today?
Hey, question my question is, I wanted to just get the pros and cons on disc brakes. I was down at the Louisville Truck Show, and of course, you got vendors set up with everything, and I've been thinking about it, but I thought, well, I'll just call in maybe and see what are the pros and cons of it.
So are you talking about converting
the money?
a current truck?
Yes.
Did they give you an idea of what that cost would be? Because I have no idea.
No. Yeah, I'm actually waiting on the one company to get back with me on that. So, yeah, I'm waiting on the call. So
I can certainly talk about all the benefits and downsides to disc brakes. What I can't do is help you with that question until we have that number. That's important. I mean, it really will just come down to money. I will tell you that my first thought is no, I wouldn't convert a truck. That's my first thought. Now, it doesn't mean that that's 100%. If I had a truck I really loved and I was going to recondition it and maybe even paint it and just really keep it for a long time, I may upgrade to disc brakes. I am a fan of them. I think they are a far superior technology in many ways. And if I were buying a new truck, hands down, I'm absolutely getting disc brakes, not even a question. Whether or not I would convert a truck, I would need a lot more information. What's the truck worth? Does it get good fuel economy? All that stuff that I talk about. It's a numbers game.
Yeah.
But if it makes financial sense, then I'm always going to switch to disc brakes. That would be my answer. They are a more powerful brake. They are a less expensive brake to maintain over the life of the vehicle. They're much safer. They don't experience brake fade. To me, it is clearly a superior technology. And let's look at every vehicle that has brakes and the progression of every vehicle right down to a bicycle is we started with one type of a brake. I can't say drum brakes because cars and trucks had drum brakes. Bicycles had caliper brakes. But we started on every vehicle, we started with one type of a brake. And what did we progress to on every single vehicle? Disc brakes. That was the progression of every single vehicle. Go back to cars, they all had drum brakes. And then the high-end cars started putting disc brakes on the front, right? And pretty soon, then every car has disc brakes on the front. And then the high-end cars have four-wheel disc brakes. But every vehicle has progressed from some form of a brake to a disc brake. It is clearly the better braking technology.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I was thinking, the same thing, because I got to thinking, well, how the regular cars and vehicles have gone to that, and it's like, well,
Have you ever replaced brakes on a car or truck?
Yes.
So have you ever done a drum brake, and then have you also done a disc brake?
Yes, I've done both.
Which one is a whole lot easier? Absolutely. To do a drum brake job, I got a damn toolbox full of specialty tools that I use for nothing but replacing drum brakes. All the clips and calipers and pliers and disc brakes are so much easier.
I'm telling you, that's it. So, that's where I was just getting the question, and that's what I'm working on now, getting the numbers together. And it is something I, don't want to do now or can't, but I was looking at it. I want to put some money aside. I'm like, I want to get all my numbers together, figure out, when the time would be right.
It's a numbers game. I would say that there would be a situation where I would be willing to do the upgrade. If I'm buying a new truck, like I said, slam dunk, I'm going to get them every time. I just have to make sure that it makes financial sense to retrofit something.
Yep, perfect. Well, I appreciate it, Kevin.
You're welcome. Thanks for the call. That's going to wrap up the calls that I've got. I will wait here about 1 minute while I check through my notes and see if there was anything else I wanted to talk about. And if not, we'll wrap this up. I think we'll just leave rolling toe for 10 o'clock because that's when everybody was scheduled. So we'll either have a short break here for 20 minutes or so, and then we'll come back with rolling toe, or I'll take a couple more calls while I'm here. I'm looking through my notes right now, see what else I've got going on here. What did I want to talk about? One of the things, kind of going back to politics here, I'll talk for a couple minutes. The whole shift in politics in general. Elon Musk seems to be becoming the enemy of the left, which is kind of funny because Elon Musk has been a liberal forever. He was not a conservative, not even close. I would venture to say that he's probably more libertarian than anything, but he always voted Democratic. He admitted it until now, and he said he would not do it again. Alan Dershowitz, if you're familiar with the attorney, well, he's a law professor, Alan Dershowitz, very liberal, always has been. Not so much anymore. He is really coming out hard against what they're doing to Trump right now. I know of 3 federal politicians at the federal level that have switched from being a Democrat to either registering as a Republican or an independent. 3 of them. I think it's a sign that the Democrats and the left have gone off the deep end. I think you're seeing the results of that now, and I hope we are. I hope all of this moves back to something a little more closer to the middle. All right, calls are starting to come in, so I'll grab them. Let's go to California. Dylan, welcome to the program.
Yeah, I just want to say I hope Paul never stops saying howdy.
He won't. He can't. It's in his genes.
Well, good. I have a funny story. I woke up this morning in the truck. It was dark. I get up to start it, and I swear I heard someone say, howdy. And I looked to see if my phone was on the show. I looked up to see if the CB was on. I swear that I heard howdy. And I thought of Paul at 5 o'clock this morning in the dark and looked all over, and he was nowhere to be found. But we thought about him.
There you go. He's messing with you.
He is. Just don't ever change it. That's all I have.
Good. All right. That's all we need. Thanks for the call. Let's go to... Oh, I got to drop that one first. I hit the right buttons here. Let's go to BC. Murray, welcome to the program.
Morning, Kevin. What's going on, man?
I'm here. I'm here doing my thing.
Yeah. Yes, you are. Just a quick question. Sold my last truck last June, trying to capitalize on some of the higher used truck prices and whatnot. Kind of been playing around doing some other stuff.
Well, good for you.
Gone back to tanking, food grade tanker work for a local company here, and they have a program. I was thinking about buying a truck and waiting back in again. Not just now, but maybe in a few months or a year. We'll wait and see how it sort of plays out. But the company has a number of spare trucks, and they would be willing to rent me a truck while I sort of get my feet wet, decide whether or not I want to do a lease op situation or an owner operator situation with them. If I do, then I can buy whatever I want and will, or just go back to my position as a driver. How do you feel about renting their truck for a month or 2 or 3 while I make up my mind?
I have no problem with that whatsoever. I think it's a good idea. Not a lot of opportunities for this, but this is how I got started. I rented I had not been an owner operator, hadn't even had a driving job yet. One of the first jobs I went to look at was a company called Spartan Express. They were owned by Roadway, and they had just moved into the Northeast and opened terminals, and they were using all owner operators. They had no company trucks, and they needed another extra truck, not for a dedicated route, but to do local pickup and delivery. And they were having a hard time finding somebody. It just wasn't enough work. and they had a yard tractor. My God, this thing was ancient and ragged, should have never been on the road, but they rented it to me. And I paid them a certain amount of rent per day. I put fuel in it. They covered the maintenance. It was a kind of a goofy little arrangement. But I did that for about 6 months while I was trying to save a little bit of money and find a truck to buy.
Right. And like I don't have a problem being an owner operator. I've done that. I can work out my numbers and tell whether I'm making money or not.
Right.
It's fine. But I've never done like the work that these guys do. Like I said, it's all food grade tanker work. And what I'm doing now is all local town work here in Vancouver, the Vancouver area.
Okay.
What the owner operators do is longer, like BC, Alberta and back, or cross country and back.
Okay.
And so that's a different orbit. So I was just thinking if I can rent it, but I wanted to just pick your brain on that. So
yeah,
and then I can buy whatever I want.
So here's the big difference. People might be listening going, wait a minute, he talks all the time about how horrible lease purchases are. Absolutely, totally different situation. A lease purchase, I'm committed. I sign a lease purchase and the engine blows up tomorrow, it's on me. I'm screwed. I'm committed to this. So way different. All we're doing here, this is a daily thing for the most part, or maybe you commit for a month. Big deal. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So this could be this could be a really good thing. I love it when companies offer something like this.
Well, and it's a really good company, which is why I would consider it. And I could buy one of their trucks. They have great trucks. They're very well maintained. Or I could go out and buy whatever I want as long as it's less than 7 years old. That's the only stipulation they have. And then it's got to have PTO pump and all that sort of thing. But that's secondary.
And I also have no problem whatsoever buying a truck from a trucking company. In fact, I'm in favor of it. There are usually some really good deals there. The difference being the title is going to be in my name. In a lease purchase, that's not the case. You have no ownership of that vehicle. This is totally different. And in fact, I'll go on to say, I rented a truck from the company while I was looking for a truck and ultimately ended up buying a truck from Roadway.
Yeah. And this company does have, like I said, they do have trucks I could pick from their used fleet, some of which is a year old, some of which is 7 years old, or I can go out and bring whatever I want to the table. And either way, any of their trucks, if they meet with my approval, I have no problem doing that.
Yep.
Well, I just don't want to be like some of the people in a lease off, or well, not lease off, but in a
this is totally different.
Yeah. I'll run my own financing if I finance it all.
Perfect.
And buy something outright or with small financing and go from there.
Yep. Perfect.
All right. Got my answer.
All right. Thanks for the call. Let's go to Texas. Shane, welcome to the program.
Hey, Kevin. How you doing this morning?
Good. What's on your mind?
We had a Peterbilt 389 stolen in Florida on March 7th. And we thought we were in a safe place. Stayed at that hotel frequently while my wife over the past 3 or 4 years. And that's the only reason we were at the hotel, because she was with me. And woke up, the truck was gone. Anywho, long story short, after this happened, social media posts and whatnot that we've been sharing and trying to find it and whatnot, we have realized that this is a big problem in Florida. That if you got a classic style truck, especially the Peterbilts, you might wake up and find your truck gone if you're not staying in that truck.
Truck and trailer, are they stealing just trucks?
Well, they took our truck and trailer. A few of the others, they dropped the trailer. But it seems to be they're more interested in the truck than the trailer. If they can get rid of the trailer right there.
I wonder why. I guess it's and why classics?
Yes, it makes no sense.
So if you steal something, the point is you want to somehow turn that into cash. I mean, you're not going to steal a truck and then go try to drive it and make money with it. That doesn't make any sense. So what do you do with the truck that you steal? Do you part them out? That's what most cars are stolen for. Cars are stolen for parts. So you buy the car, you part it out, you make a ton of money. Is that what they're doing here? I don't get it.
Well, a friend of mine is pretty high up in the Florida Highway Patrol out of DeLand, and he had mentioned that it's probably in a cargo container going across the water. Well,
that could be.
That was
that
was the afternoon that it was stolen that we had that discussion.
Yeah, they do that with cars too. So that may be it. You know, I'm shocked that more trucks aren't stolen. They're really easy to steal. Many of them still have vent windows that are easy to pop. It's easy to get in the door. They don't have column locks like cars do. Not that a column lock's all that hard to defeat, but it's even easier here. I can hotwire a truck in about 2 minutes. It's not that hard at all.
Exactly what they.
Yeah,
that's exactly what they did.
You unscrew the ignition switch, pull it out so you can see the wires. You jump it, and the truck's running. I mean, this is so easy. I would think.
Did you steal my truck?
Yeah, I would think more trucks would be stolen for the freight. But I guess it's really hard to get rid of a whole truckload of freight. Now that I think about it, it's really easy to steal a lot of freight. I can't think of anything that's easier to steal. A lot of something really quickly. Whatever's in that trailer, I can be gone in 5 minutes.
Right. Well, they got a rude awakening if they were stealing it for the freight because it was full of plants for our other business.
Yeah. You know, I've been reading stories. I just read another one yesterday, and I can remember back in the late 80s, early 90s, this was a big deal. I used to run the East Coast a lot, New York City, and I can remember when we were talking a lot about you pull up to a traffic light, and they would run up to your trailer, break the seal, cut the lock, whatever, open the doors, and start throwing freight onto pickup trucks on the street. That used to be really common on the East Coast back in the late 80s, early 90s. I'm starting to hear those stories again.
Right. And you know, it sucks. It's going to happen to somebody. It unfortunately happened to us. So it'll be July or August before we're able to replace it. But my biggest concern was just trying to bring awareness. I mean, you know, if you're looking to get rid of a payment, okay, do what you got to do. You know, I don't want no part of that. That wasn't our intent.
Yeah, right.
But if you care about your truck, at least leave your chicken lights on. You know, let people turn your APU on the cycle to where somebody thinks that somebody's in that truck, and they're probably not going to mess with it. They realize there's nobody in that truck. They're going to take it.
That's some good advice. You know, if every time you park, you know, try to make it look more like somebody's still there with the vehicle. You know, if this becomes a bigger issue, I would also look at, you know, tracking devices to help us at least get the vehicle back.
So Hurricane Express Monday had one of their trucks in Plant City. They stole the truck and trailer, disabled the GPS tracker on the trailer, disabled the GPS tracker on the truck, and they found the trailer. I'm not sure how far away.
Yeah, so here, this is another good piece of advice since we're talking about this. A lot of fleets use tracking devices, not for theft. They use it for tracking. We track most of our freight now. People want to know where stuff is. These trucking companies then assume that that's a good use of the tracking in case something gets stolen. It's not. Those are too easy to defeat. They're easy to find. When you look at something like, there's a big brand name in cars for this. It's been around a long time. LoJack. Yeah, LoJack's been around forever. The LoJack is hidden so well, it's really, really difficult to find them and disable them. But the typical tracking devices we use in trucks are usually obvious and easy to defeat.
So they do have a low jack system for a Class 8?
I don't see why not. It's just a vehicle. And probably in today's day and age with the way technology, LoJack was around 20 years ago. I have to believe that there might be even something better these days. I don't know. But look at every car lot that gives easy credit. You know, all those car lots, buy here, pay here, everybody gets financed. Every one of those companies use trackers.
Makes sense.
Yeah, that's how they repossess those cars. They love those things. They know exactly where that car is.
Yep. Well, I can tell you when we get our replacement in July or August, there's going to be every flipping bell and whistle and trackable.
You know,
I'm not going through this again. People say, "Oh, you got insurance." No, it ain't the same.
I don't know why we haven't made trucks harder to steal. It's almost like we make them easy to steal. Like I said, vent windows, no column locks, no smart keys like we have in cars. None of that stuff. Why not?
Right. Yep. And there was a gentleman that he got a hold of me a week after ours was stolen, and his almost got stolen. They got it cranked up, and they left because he had to build air, but they pulled the freaking plug off the back of the ignition switch and hot wired the truck old school way.
Let me give everybody a really, really cheap, simple solution for this that is actually really effective. So find a place. Here's where I would put it. I can remember my dad used to do this to every car we owned. I totally forgot about this. He would do it in the back corner of the glove compartment. And I would do it on a truck. If you've got that big fuse panel like on the Freightliners over on the right, I would do it inside there. Find a compartment that's kind of hidden but somewhat easy to get to. Here's all you do. Like in the glove compartment, we used to drill 2 holes through the bottom, and we would run a bolt through and put a flat washer. So I would actually take a little bolt and I'd weld a flat washer onto the top of it. And then we'd run that bolt down through.
Right.
And then you connect the ignition wire to both sides. So you put 2 of them in just a little apart from each other, these 2 tab kind of things. And then you get a magnet and you drop a magnet onto them and it completes the circuit. And when you park it, you just pull the magnet off and either hide it somewhere or put it in your pocket. Even when people see it, they won't know what it is. And if somebody's trying to steal a vehicle and it won't start, they don't try to figure out why it won't start. They just move on to the next one. That's a really simple, cheap, easy kill switch.
Yes, that is a good idea. Definitely. But and like I said, the biggest reason, and I'm enjoying the conversation and listening to every word you're saying, but it's the Frank where in Florida, especially around the I-75 Chrome Shop there in Wildwood, Lake County, Marion County, Sumter County, Polk County.
So, you know, this is a good topic we should be talking more about because we know there's been the huge fund across the country to defund police departments. We know there's a huge wave of retirement of police officers and police officers leaving the profession because of the conditions. And we're in a bad economy. Theft is going to get a lot worse. They're going to start stealing fuel. They're going to start stealing tires. They're going to start stealing anything they can from commercial vehicles. So I'm glad you brought this up. This is probably a topic we should stay on top of.
And I can tell you from experience, and I'm not dogging, and I'm not going to say the city, and I'm not dogging the police department, but it has been almost like a victimless crime that you're looked at as, oh, well, you got insurance, it's all good, move on.
Oh, I believe it.
No, there's been no.
I believe it.
No hunt. There's been, you know, any kind of evidence that has been found. We have found it, turned it over. It's like, okay, go get the guys.
Yeah.
Nope, still ain't got them.
Yep.
Like, what the heck?
Yeah, you know, one of the other crimes I've talked about, and it's escalating again. I had an article about it I was going to talk about today. I just didn't get to it. When I came back from the conferences I spoke at in Tennessee, they were all about nuclear verdicts in the trucking industry. And that issue, nuclear verdicts and staged accidents that lead to nuclear verdicts, those two issues are not going away. They're going to get worse in this economy.
Exactly.
So I would recommend owner operators install camera systems. Forward looking, side looking, cover as much of that vehicle as you can cover with cameras so you can prove it was a staged accident. That is definitely our best defense against that. Hey, Shane, you're starting to break up, and I've got to get to a couple more calls before we wrap this up. Let's go to Florida. Mike, welcome to the program.
Hey, Kevin. On the previous call, not what I called about, but on my truck and trailer, what I've done is I've cut the brake supply line and put a shutoff valve in the, just a hidden shutoff valve.
Oh, there's another good idea.
So they can release the brakes.
There's another good idea. I like that one too.
Yeah. What I thought about you've talked a little bit about marketing on your end. A while back, you talked about putting advertising on trailers and all that. Have you ever thought about doing like a smaller advertisement where we could put it on ourselves, something like a 2 foot by 3 foot, and just mail it to us, and we could stick it on there? I'm not talking about for fee.
Right. Now, we might explore that. So we've done smaller decals and stuff for people to put them on the truck or in their window to identify as, a tribe member, whatever. Just get fun stuff like that, not really trying to advertise at all. And then we talked about the big picture of, you can't really spend money on this idea to advertise on trailers. It doesn't work. I've talked about it for decades, all the reasons why. But there might be a sweet spot in there somewhere. There might be something that we could produce and send out to tribe members if they wanted to put it on. So we'll probably explore that.
Yeah. Okay. Next question from listening to the book 1 second after, salt was a big commodity for preserving meat.
Right.
How long will that work? And we buy like whole cow, whole pig. Our freezer's always full of meat.
For the most part, what you're looking at here are things like jerky. You can't. Well, you can. Have you ever had salt cod?
Don't think so.
It's a big New England thing. Well, it used to be. You don't see much of it anymore. They would take cod, fish, and they would pack it in salt. And it preserves it, and then when you go to use it, you literally just rinse this fish over and over and over and over to get all the salt out of it. It works. Salt is a way of preserving food. It's a small way. I don't do any salt preserving at all. It's.
I'm just thinking if the power went out and we've got a freezer full of meat.
Well, here, yeah, I could actually. Well, you can it. That's what I do. So I have a lot of frozen. I actually have 3 freezers. I should only have 2, but during the pandemic, one of mine quit, and I couldn't get. I had a very large freezer, and I just couldn't get one that size. I waited 6 months to find a freezer. Period. And I ended up buying 2 smaller, so now I have 3 of them. So I do have a lot of meat and food frozen, but I also make sure that I have all of the supplies I would need to can all of that meat if I had to. So I have plenty of propane, I have plenty of jars. I have plenty of jars and lids and seals, and I would just start canning all of that frozen meat. I don't can it all now because when you can it, you change the product. Turkey becomes shredded turkey and beef becomes shredded beef. And so I don't want all of my meat canned. So I buy meat and I rotate in and out of the freezers. And then I always make sure I have a certain supply of canned meat. By far, that is the best way to preserve meat.
Okay. I just remember hearing it on the book. back when I listened to it.
Yeah,
Wasn't sure how that worked. I know they do ham like that. I believe.
Yeah. Now I do have probably, I think I've got 10 gallons of salt. Just sitting in 2 5-gallon sealed buckets, because salt is a pretty important thing, and I can preserve food with it. So I store a big supply of salt as part of the pantry, but I don't use salt to preserve much at all. It like I say, it can be done. It's kind of extreme. It really changes the meat product. And to me, there are just better ways of preserving. I mean, you can preserve meat by making jerky. And I do some of that. I make my own jerky. I don't want to have to survive on jerky, though. And I don't want to have to survive on salted meat. So it's having a little bit of it, understanding the technique, knowing how to do it. Those are all good skills. I'm just not going to use that technique very often. Canning to me works so much better.
Okay. All righty, well, I'll let you go. I know the Beckett's coming up.
All right. Thanks for the call. I'm going to finish one more, and then we will turn this over to the Beckett's and Rolling Toe. We're going to finish up in New Jersey today. Jeremy, welcome.
Hey, what's on my mind is, sorry to spread more doubt and, questioning of our systems, but did you, was the Vegas shooting ever questioned or looked at? Did you ever catch any of that?
Well, I mean, I followed. What do you think? What do you mean? Was anything ever resolved?
Well, I just saw something recently. It really affected me, and so I was curious if I had missed something. But it's a YouTube channel, and her name's Mindy Robinson 9512. She's like a blonde, and she's a journalist, maybe on her own. But it just. There was a lot of different angles of gunshots and a lot of different sounds from different. Obviously, they were in different areas, and live body cams from police that just, I don't know, it really made me think there was more going on than that, and then I started thinking about what year it happened.
What is her premise? What is she saying she believes went on?
Well, the main thing is that more or less investigation that could have been done that's the main thing. More
for what?
For the shooting. There was hiding information.
Why?
That's exactly why.
Guy who walked up with a bunch of rifles and ammunition and started shooting people out of a window, and they died. Sure, we investigated it, but I'm wondering, what is she alluding to? What would we investigate more? What does she think is being hidden?
Like there were other shooters, because there was headshots that the angle of the gun wasn't from a top building.
Let's say
maybe there was more shooters. And
let's say there was.
Okay.
Now what?
Yeah. Right. I know.
Why would we hide that? What's the purpose? What would be the end result of hiding the fact that there were multiple shooters?
I guess it's the fact that we hit it, or possible that we didn't investigate all the way, or I don't know. I started thinking weird
stuff.
That's
assuming that show me some proof, real proof. Don't give me these angles, and you can manipulate that kind of stuff so much. What would be the end? What would be the end? First off, multiple mass shooters. Very, very rare. I can't even think of a single case of a multiple mass shooter. So it's rare. It's odd. Why are we thinking that there were multiple shooters? And why would the law enforcement community hide that? What would be the end result Is she giving us any idea why she believes that there were other shooters? What's the end game there? Or is it just pure speculation?
I guess I never did get that.
Right.
Yeah.
And let's think about this. I was going to do a whole show today on all the bullshit that's happening in the world, in our country, that doesn't make sense. I didn't do it because I can't even get my own head around it in a way to even present it so that it makes sense. I want to do that, but it's that difficult and complicated. And all I'm going to do is stick to the stuff we know. I'm not going to go into any weird conspiracy theories or speculate on why this. Why would I do that? There is so much wrong that we absolutely know is wrong that we need to focus on and fix. Why do we run off chasing these goofy ideas that don't even make any sense?
Yeah, right. Yeah. And
it's one thing to say.
What can we do about it?
It's one thing to say the government is pushing us into EVs. There's proof of it. They're giving big tax credits to companies. They're penalizing internal combustion engines. They're telling us they're doing this. That's a big problem. Let's go deal with that. But why do we want to run off and waste a bunch of energy on, well, we think there were multiple shooters? Even if there was, so what?
Yeah.
What would it mean? So what?
Right.
I just don't understand with everything going on in our world why people waste time on some of this stuff.
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah, what can we do about it? So, yeah, well, thanks. I just, I didn't mean to bring
no, that's
bad news to the table.
I'm glad we talk about it because people should understand just because somebody has a YouTube channel and 100,000 followers, just ask better questions. Try, like my question. Oh, okay. Let's say there was an extra shooter. Now what?
Yeah.
I would just like to ask this person that question. Now what? So what?
Yeah. Yeah, and it's possible helicopters involved. I don't know. Do you remember what her name? I'm just curious if you watched it. You probably have the same thought, but I just wanted you to check it out if you had a chance.
Yeah, no, like I said, there's enough stuff we can absolutely prove is wrong, and we should be focused on that, not all this speculation that doesn't even make sense.
Oh, right. Okay. I'll do. And being prepared.
Oh, there you go.
For whatever.
Yeah. That's the kind of stuff I love to talk about. Bring it to me. Let's talk about it. But we're done talking today because we are all out of time. And I've got to get out of here and make room for Mike and Kevin Beckett coming up in under 10 minutes. So don't go anywhere. I'm going to close out this show. We'll get their show started and they will be live here in no time. Call them up with weird questions today, too. They could use some of those. We will see you back here tomorrow. Let's see. Do we have anybody verified for tomorrow? Let's see. Gotta look back through my notes real quick. Joel is confirmed. Haven't heard from Henry or John yet. So Joel and I will be here tomorrow. There might be others. We will see you then. Be safe. Be profitable, be fit and healthy. Always do the hard work and master the journey.